Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 2023 season of Power Spike here at Last Free Nation. Dgon, Dom, and Monty to break down everything global. And we start things off with a classic segment of Power Spike. It's called Keep or Kick, where you either keep one option team player thing or kick one option player thing. And this week, we got ourselves a European special as they're already in week 2 of play. And we're starting not at the top end, but on the bottom end, as you have to pick from the bottom
end.
Yeah, it's keep or kick special edition. Do you keep or kick Fnatic or Excel? Two teams that had high hopes coming into the season and have now just plummeted down the rankings. Fnatic most recently, thanks to Evie's Kasanteve. I'm gonna workshop that one. Monty, let's go first. What do you think?
So, by the way, the Fnatic game where they just lost to Heretics after like losing 1 million Barons and the throws that happened in that game was like 10 minutes ago. So that's fresh in my mind. So here's the logic that I have. I keep Excel, even though they have a worse record, even though they lost to Fnatic this week, because I think Fnatic is played out. I think they're just played out. I have been waiting for so long to see this roster be effective with Razork and Humanoid. Humanoid has looked better than he did towards the end of the summer regular split. Like, he's had some on games, but he's also still had some of those off games. If Razork and Humanoid don't have synergy by now, I just don't think it's ever going to happen. So I think we have to just throw in the towel with this Fnatic roster. I'm not liking what I'm seeing. And even though Excel has right now been the worst team, I at least have hope that they can get their shit together. I have hope that we do have MVP level performers like Vetheo on this roster. LoDOMinate's been performing well in isolation on this.
Yeah, he only
team.
got solo killed by who? Who did he get solo killed? Finn, the worst top laner in the league? Yeah, he only got shit on by Finn today.
Look, a lot of the games LoDOMinate's been fine. He has at least been the bright spot, especially in their first week of competition. But I think this
solo
roster
killed by Adam twice, but yeah, I mean, okay.
All right. I think this roster is more redeemable than Fnatic's roster. I think it's more redeemable than Fnatic's roster.
Well, my answer is I say kick both of them. Like, don't keep either of them. Like, it's actually just so fucked up watching these teams play. I mean, the word I was using on stream to describe like the atmosphere around them is that they all just look despondent. That's how I feel. Like, when you put the camera on them, they're just looking down. They're not smiling. You look at like the cams in game. They just have like their hands on their head. You know, they just die. You see them sigh. It looks so depressing watching these teams play. It's like they all fucking hate each other or something. They just need to change like 1 or 2 players like immediately on both lineups, because the reality is if you don't win this next week, you're fucked anyway, right? So I'm thinking for XL, you probably just have to bench Vetheo for Abbedagge. That's the only option that you have right now that's available for you. Like, he's just on your lineup. He's your sub for a reason. I assume that, you know, he's somebody that you actually believe in as a player. He's not been the best player in LCS, but he's definitely like top half of the league permanently.
Hey, look,
he's been, like, top 3, top 4.
As soon as he got back into Europe, the skilled vampires from LCS left him, and now he's good again, right? So maybe the same thing will happen with Abbedagge.
The skill vampires. I like the way you put that. And for all of our friends at home that don't really know, despondent, it's a look of loss due to a lack of was it courage and spirit or something like that. So it's hot words for the SATs for our audience there. It's not good. I like, at first, I was agreeing with Monty. I was like, hey, you know what? I think it is an Excel keep, but when Dom brought up a couple of these points with LoDOMiNate after like a couple, he needed help in the early games of week 1. But Vetheo tweeted out recently that, man, all he has is confidence and he's lost it.
He was like
right there.
Look, he just needs a reset. You know, you can maybe bring him back. You just need to get to the next round, right? So just, man, he's like breaking down after week 2. Like, you saw the tweet on the cameras. I think he was, he looked really sad. I'm not sure if he was crying or not. People came out to console him. Like, this is week 2 of regular season, and this is like the, just the aura around the team, and this is how down they are already. So I just feel like you need to do anything. And, maybe Abbedagge and LoDOMiNate, last time they played, they had that miracle run together. Who knows? Maybe
So
there's
bring
something
back
there.
so bring back Gilius too, like kick Xerxes.
Yeah, legit. Like I think they would actually play better.
legit agree with kick Xerxes for Gilius. That's
No, I think they would
get behind.
unironically play better because it's not even about them being bad players. They're just so the mood of the team is so negative that it's like impossible for them to even perform. They're just like expecting it to all go wrong. They go into the game and they're already like, I wonder how we're gonna lose this one, or like, oh god, I hope we don't lose another one. I hope we don't end up losing to Astralis. That would be really embarrassing. It just, you can tell the mindset is so, it's such a loser mindset that you're just not going to be able to get out of it. So I think you need to just make an immediate roster change because it might be week 3, but your split is over if you don't perform next week, right?
I mean, it almost is over right now. I mean, being 1-5 is extremely damaging at this point because you only play those 9 games. And so realistically, you at least have to win 2 of the games next week, if not all 3, depending on how the rest of everything shakes out. Like obviously Fnatic losing and that last game helped Excel quite a bit because now maybe they can kind of like claw their way back up a little bit. But I agree, it's gonna be really tough. And I also agree with you, Dom. Why not put in Abbedagge? Because you actually have nothing to lose. You actually have nothing to lose next week.
A cool byproduct of this new 3 split, 1 round robin split look of the LEC. Pretty cool thing. Last note here, Xerxes, because we talked about it, and yeah, we threw in Gilius's name, but Xerxes, he's done a lot of losing in the last several years. He was on Astralis, then came to North America to play on Immortals, then went back to Astralis. That's a player that has a lot of resolve and is still playing pro, but like, who are you looking to be the positive light to get your players back in a better form? It's not Xerxes, and he's your veteran. So, all right, we'll see.
Yeah, but I mean, veteran doesn't even mean anything. Like, he's a veteran, but he's a passenger veteran. He's been on a bunch of shit teams. Like, he's been on 10th place teams in LCS and in LEC. Like, he can be a good player in certain metas on certain champions, but he's not a leader. He's not somebody who's going to like rally the troops and, you know, be like, all right, guys, this is like how we're going to win the game. He'll just play the game. And if you lose, you lose. If you win, you win.
He's also been more of a pathing focused farming jungler for a lot of his career, where I think what they really need is a more active early game vocal jungler. And I just don't think Xerxes is that guy.
I mean, they just need to fucking wherever their hands went, they need to grow them back and fucking play some league, because when you watch the fucking bot lane trade, like go watch their Draven Nautilus laning from today. It was appalling how disgusting that this lane went. It's 2 hooks into a wall, walking forward when your Nautilus has no hooks. It's what is going on? These players are fucking good. These players are actually good though. Like I don't believe that TarGamas is actually shit. I don't think he's as bad as he is. Like right now, he looks like he's a bottom 2 support, right? Him and Mercer are the worst 2 supports in the league. I don't believe that to be true. I think there's such a negative attitude that it's bringing everyone's level down. So they need to just get it the fuck together. Hey, we want to fucking. You got fucking champions from last year. You got 2 champions from last year on this roster. So come on, like somebody's got to be able to like get a win over Astralis. Like this is Astralis, man, bro. Astralis doesn't even want to be there. Astralis is literally like griefing half their games. We got to be able to at least like lane into them evenly in counter matchups.
All right, so we've spent a lot of time on Excel. Is that still the team that we're picking here, Monte, after this long discussion?
Hey, look, I still want to kick Fnatic. I think there at least is more potential upside to Excel. I think I've seen the core of this Fnatic roster, and I think it's played its course. But luckily, with the new LEC format, we may be kicking both of them, as Dom says, next week, depending on their performance.
Top 8 make it to the next phase.
If Astralis makes it over Fnatic and Excel, like just don't even play the rest of the league. Just end the league right there and just take like a 3-month break and just ridicule them. That's it. Like it's just that's too ridiculous.
Well, thank you, Dom. That's a perfect segue to remind everyone at home to subscribe to our Inside on Esports Last Free Nation channel on YouTube, TikTok, and here on Twitch as well, to keep up with all things League of Legends, and we'll get more subscribers than Astralis. So there you go. All right, so that was Keep or Kick. Next up, we got our segment called Listen Up, Nephews, where you all at home have a take that is bad, and we're going to fix that. All right, y'all, it's time to listen up about LCS fandom. So when we heard earlier last year that LCS was moving to Thursday, Fridays, it was more fuel on the fire. That was NA is not good. They didn't make it out of the group stages. Now the viewership is going to die. They don't have LEC to pull the numbers, which is true. That was part of the reason why they wanted time slots that had LEC viewership as a part of it. But it started leaving the North American audience in the dust, which is why they changed it up 2 more hours so that at least people on the East Coast would be off work to be able to watch. This opening weekend of the LCS was, in so many respects, fantastic. Everyone was bought into it, from the casters, from the players, from the teams, from the fans. And I hope most people at home were as well. It felt very good and transformative in a way that it hasn't felt in a very long time. Dom and I were talking about it earlier, where it felt like the good old days of League, where it felt like all the teams had an opportunity. Everything was important to everyone. There was no lock-in tournament where we're just kind of skating by and easing into it. And so it's a reminder to fans everywhere of the LCS. Hey, look, you don't have to love the greatest League of Legends ever, the LPL, the LCK. We'll throw an LEC in there on the top end. If you love the LCS, you don't have to. It is okay to love, at times, lesser League of Legends because it's not as great, if that's what you grew up on, if you have an affinity to those players and those teams, and remind everyone like, hey, look, I love this league. And I think that was something that I lost a little bit last year as well. Like, I'm the positive one about the LCS, but I really do love the LCS. I love the teams. I love the players. I love everyone that works on it. And the storylines that are there, that's for me. And it's a reminder like, hey, look, people are going to joke you or whatever. It doesn't matter. Like, if you love that thing, that's fine. Don't claim that the best league in the world, we're going to win worlds. That's not true either. So that's where we usually get in trouble. But definitely lean into the fandom and the storylines. So there it is for our Listen Up Nephews. I know we have a lot of European audiences that are going to go ahead and, crush us there. But I wanted to remind those LCS fans that that's the thing.
I'm going to jump on this too, Dgon, because I was going to do a different idea in a different segment, but we'll just do I'll jump on your idea instead, which is to say this, like, you guys have to give the LCS some time in order to make adjustments, because I'm sure there'll be viewership comparisons that are coming up, and honestly, the viewership was better than I expected, but it probably was less than previous opening weekends for LCS. But with the time, so not only did they change the time, right? They changed the time twice, and they changed the date. So I think a lot of people were probably confused about where this is coming out. But we have to be honest here, which is they couldn't do nothing, guys. Doing nothing was the kiss of death for the LCS. It wasn't working. Viewership was declining. They were losing sponsors. Doing nothing was not an option. So honestly, I really applaud Riot for having the balls to make big changes, because you had to change something to see if this was going to work. Otherwise, it was just a slow slide into oblivion, right? And honestly, what I've been critiquing them about for years has been a lack of creativity, poor creative production, lack of risk taking. And even if we don't like all of the things that they're doing, at least we can admit that they are doing different things, and some of those things are just going to be successful, and they'll learn from that. So I'm actually quite positive about the LCS. And not only that, but we actually have a pretty interesting league. It doesn't feel super shitty to watch as a fan as it has in years past. And we've got some exciting teams like FlyQuest that we might not have had before. We have some hilarious meme teams that at least are fun to watch for those reasons, like 100 Thieves, which is just, a hoodie org now, as they always were secretly. But I think that the storylines are good. I liked the hype intro that they made for the league. I thought it was really fun and told some of the storylines visually. So you can really tell there's a different tone. Now, some of the things I still disagree with, such as the fact that they removed Dash, but just replaced him with Jat, who's doing Dash's job, but worse. So like that feels lame, because I feel like if there is anybody who is going to be really good at stitching all these different ideas and personalities together and making those smooth transitions, it is Dash. So I have questions about them not using him. But for the most part, I think it's an improved product.
Dom?
Yeah, it's definitely way better. I mean, when you watch the previous years, it just felt like it was missing something. So I think there's more energy. Also,
it wasn't fun. It just wasn't fun.
I mean, I think the weirdest thing that happened in this offseason was seeing like all the fans randomly like attack Jackie because she's the commissioner. Like they think that she's Adam Silver from the NBA and she actually has like legit control over like what days they play on, as if, you know, when Big Daddy Riot comes down and is like, okay, we're going to move Valorant to the weekend. She can be like, no, we want, you know, move Valorant to the week. We're going to keep the weekends for LCS. We want consistency. Let's get the optimal time slot. Like that's just not even within the scope of the possibilities for a commissioner within the LCS. So I think that just in general,
the name
it seems like a better product.
Is a misnomer, right? Like I feel bad for her because people are blaming her for things that are not her fault. And in my opinion, the things that she has control over, she's doing very well.
She's been doing really well.
Yeah. So there you go.
Dom's a big fan. Restored full co-streaming privileges to him throughout the entire year.
Well, I mean, honestly, that was one of the things that she did. Yeah, she did do that. But
I know.
then that's also something that like when she went to talk about the league, she came to people like myself, people like LS, and was like, hey, you guys have been critical of the league. What do you think is not working? And she took our opinions, and it seems like she's actually acted on things that we thought were not that fun about the league. So I mean, personally, I'm seeing changes within the league, and people will be, I mean, one of the criticisms I've been getting is like, oh, you're only saying that because you got co-streaming rights back. It's like, what? How the fuck? Like, I got banned for being too negative. Like, come on, like let's not pretend like I'm the guy that's fucking a shill that just bites my tongue and praises everything that somebody does just because I have privileges now. Like I had co-streaming privileges last split, and I was saying that the league felt not fun for the majority of like spring. Well, so it's just weird.
Look, we can also reduce it to its most basic element, which is that turns out that talking to people and having them felt listened to who are major influencers in your community and making them happy can increase positive PR around your league. It's almost like that's a smart thing to do. I don't know. Weird.
I'm glad
it's novel for Riot.
Glad that there are more smart people in the control there for the LCSs. They're turning a new page, and, you know, I think my concern is Cutie Cinderella was fantastic, but you don't have Cutie Cinderella every week. There was a lot of prepared content as well. One thing that Dash always did beautifully was fill. If something's super broke and you needed time to buy, Dash could do that. He could fill forever. And that's a skill set that is a team thing, and we'll see how this desk does it. But they tried different things. They tried story time with Emily and then the closer thing. They had Emily break down drafts, so you're not losing all the analytical stuff. They had News Day Today or whatever that little skit was with Jat and like the producers talking about the biggest link. So that's a lot of prepared content.
Let's just be objective here, though. It is an asinine decision if you want to do a bunch of skits to get rid of a guy who literally has an acting degree from one of the best acting schools in the world, Tish, at NYU.
He acted like LCS was fun for the last 2 years.
Oh my God.
You know how good of an actor he has to be?
I just don't understand that specific choice. It's like you basically created a show that is more in Dash's wheelhouse than it was before. And you're like, yeah, he's the guy we don't need. Okay, LCS. Hopefully they'll just bring him back.
Yeah. Well, it was said that he's still in the plans for the LCS. We'll see how it goes.
Oh, get out of here. Get the fuck out of here.
A new start for the LCS. So that was our Listen Up Nephews. LCS fans, stand up. If you're not an LCS fan or you didn't like those changes, let us know in the comments below on this video. All right, next up, we have our conversation time. It's Galaxy Brain Club, where we discuss with the Galaxy Brains. It's those two guys. It's not really me. I'm just kind of here. Who is legit in the LCS after week 1 and getting to see it. So
all right. I'm actually changing this on the fly. I'm going to say who is legit globally. Because I think this is a good time because LPL just started back up again, and like a lot of fans haven't watched a lot of the games from around the world. So I think it's time to like call out like who we think are going to be the top teams.
Okay, well, let's get into it. Galaxy Brain Club, who's legit not just in the LCS but in the world. All right, Dom, I'm going to start with you since we're changing this one on the fly. Many people always look to you for LPL expertise from the Western world. So let's dive into it. What have you seen so far in the most aggressive league in the world?
Well, there's only been 6 days of LPL.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it's
like,
really real hard. I threw you under the bus on this one, dog.
Yeah,
It's
I mean,
we're super hard to say.
There's
in LPL
one
right
match
now.
that JDG's played. I mean, shit, they're fucking legit. I guess I don't know. Like,
there it is. Thank you. I mean, it's 2 matches for LCS. It's 4 matches for LEC. This is early.
Yeah. This just gives your prediction skills up. To be fair, JDG Ruler did look amazing in those first games.
Yeah, I mean, he looks good. He looks like he'll acclimate well. Also, the JDG, even though they did get behind at some points of the game, they actually seem like they kept their style intact for the most part, which is that they like have really, really good team fighting and they have good setups, which makes me think that more of that was coming from like the missing Kanavi 369 trio than from Yagao necessarily. So ideally, if you have an upgraded mid laner and you have like an upgraded AD carry, it should be a recipe to be legit. So I'm thinking like they're still a team that's poised to be top 4 in the world. Like they'll probably be at minimum a semifinalist. That's it.
Any other LPL bright spots?
Yeah, again,
you buying IG and Dove's retransition to mid lane. So for those of you guys who don't know, Liv Sandbox's top laner Dove, who was the worst player on that roster, has gone over and is now gone back to mid lane.
Well, he wasn't the worst player when he was a mid laner, though. Like that's the thing.
No. Worst player on top lane. He was the worst player on Liv Sandbox last year. That's what I'm saying.
When he was the top laner, because he was a mid laner, he transitioned top. But when he was a mid laner, he was fine. Like I don't think he's going to be insane, but he's going to be fine. Like I don't know what was he when he was in LCK, top 6-ish mid laner. I mean that was a pretty competitive split of mid lane, so maybe it'd be like 7, but it would be in the higher tier of mid laners where it's like, oh, you're all just like elite mid laners. You're LCK mid laners, and then you had like a bottom 3. He's fine. He's not going to be probably amazing. The person that I'm actually excited about on IG's roster is YouShouldKnowMe, their top laner, YSKM. I think that's just like such a fucking badass name, by the way. His name is YouShouldKnowMe, YSKM. And he came out, and in one of his first games, he just shit on one of the best top laners in the league, right? Like he just played well into it was Bin, I believe, right? He shit on one of no, was it Bin? No, it was Breathe. Sorry, he shit on Breathe. Dude, Bin and Breathe might as well be the same player, but yeah, he shit on one of the elite top laners in the league. Like, so I mean, when you see that coming from a player and he's able to play all the aggressive champions, that's what you want to see out of somebody like that. It's solid. You know, it's something that gives you hype. I don't think that IG is going to be a world's team, but I think they could be like top 10, which is way better than people were giving them credit for. I mean, on like the odds for their success, it was like they were 16th or something. Like I had them 12th or like 13th or something, and that was considered high. Like people really thought this team was gonna suck, and they're not bad.
Yeah, well, lane swap like Dove will do that for you. Again, the break here in LPL was for Chinese Lunar New Year.
Yeah, right? Lunar New Year.
Yeah, Lunar New Year.
Yeah. So the matches will be picking back on up in a little bit. Monty, take us over to LCK. Give us a couple of runs on best teams of the world.
I mean, I think it's pretty clear at this point that there's basically T1 and Dplus at the top tier, and they played an extremely good best of 3 against each other this past week that I think we'll talk about in a little bit. And then there's kind of a second tier that contains probably Gen.G and KT. Gen.G has looked, they did get clapped in week 1 by T1, but that was also their first game with their new bot lane. And I think Pays is a very promising rookie player. He still makes some really stupid mistakes, but his laning and team fighting have generally been quite good. So I think in the long term, Gen.G may be able to kind of claw their way back up into that upper tier. I don't think KT has the player for player firepower to contest with those other 3. But they look like they'll be a pretty solid mid-tier team. Obviously, many people would have been excited about Hanwha Life's roster. They've been fucking horrible.
Really? Yeah, they've been horrible, but have you given up completely on them?
What? No, I haven't given up completely on them. Okay. They can't stay this bad. I refuse to believe that they can remain this bad. They'll get better. They'll get better.
I mean, I would like, I know they lost to KT, but I don't know if I would just say that they're guaranteed to be like worse than KT this split, you know?
Well, they didn't just lose to KT.
Yeah, they got shit on.
they got 1 kill in each of 2 games. They got 2 kills in a best of 3. Okay, yeah, so it wasn't like
it's LCK, so there's only like 4 kills average in a best of 3. So that's honestly pretty good. They got half the kills for the fucking league.
All right, fair enough. But I think KT had like 12 or 13 kills in most of the games. But it was a very one-sided affair. But it's a long split. There will be a second round robin. Hanwha Life, obviously, it will be disastrous for LCK if they don't improve, because they should be a top 5 team. And if they're not a top 5 team, it's basically just a waste of star power on that roster. I think they just have they need to figure out how they're going to play the game as a team and maybe replace Clid with Dread.
That's the only part. They don't need to they just need to kick Clid, and then that's it. Like it's a one step solution. Anyone but Clid. Look, Hanwha Life, I'm a Dom1 fan. I've still been playing. Look, I know what Clid's doing. I can do better than that shit. I've been watching it. Like it looks like he's intentionally losing the game. Hit me up. I'll play with Viper.
It does look like he sometimes in some 1v1s has just given up on life, or like he lags out of the game and just dies. Yeah. I mean, it's weird.
I mean, look, all I'm saying is if you played with somebody like that in a solo queue game, like that level of you'd report him. Like it's definitely reportable gameplay. But some of the Maokai games, man. I mean, Hanwha Life is the roster I was most excited for because Viper is like one of my favorite players, right? And I wanted to see how he did in Korea, because obviously last time he was there, he was on one of the worst teams, which was insane to me. Like imagine that right before Viper, the year before Viper won a world championship, he was on like a 1-in-15 team or whatever it was. Or was it 1-in-17? Wait, how many best of threes do they play? Do they play 7? Do they play 16 a team?
18.
Okay, so they were like 1-in-17 then? Jesus. Yeah, I wanted to see him perform, and it looks kind of rough. Also, this is the worst possible meta for Life. Just if you think about Life historically as a player, he's an engage only player. He was like the guy that was really insane in like the set meta when there was set support, when he's able to just play. Even when set wasn't meta, he was actually still good at it. So I want to see this team in a couple patches. They're buffing all the fucking Hex Flash champions. They're buffing Alistar, Nautilus, Leona. I think all of those champions are getting buffs in like 3.3. I think that'll be extremely healthy for this team because they need Life to just be an engaged player. That's what his biggest strength is. And if they're able to incorporate that, then they'll be significantly better. Right now, they're just like RNG, for example, in their bot lane, where they just don't have a support that's good at Enchanters. It's not as extreme, obviously, in RNG as it looks in Hanwha Life right now. But you just have like an engaged specialist, and you're in the worst possible meta. And it's been a while since we've had this amount of time where engaged supports really just felt not viable at all.
Well, Dom, this was supposed to be a segment about which teams to watch, and Hanwha Life has been horrible. So yeah. I do appreciate, though, that I agree with you. I'm not as down on Hanwha Life as a lot of the fans are. Oh. And look, they're going to get absolutely Omega spanked by T1 this next week, but they have a very winnable game against a crappy DRX in the battle for who surprisingly sucks more in LCK. But until they can turn around some of these games and get some of that decisiveness, I agree that what they really lack is decisiveness and ability to commit to plays, because sometimes it's like one player goes in, the other player goes out, and then they end up losing a lot of these team fights. But these players are too good, and even though we will never see Zeka and Kingin hit the world's high again, they should be better than this. And obviously Viper should be better as well. So we don't want these players trapped in the hell that is Hanwha Life, and hopefully they'll make some changes in order to get that done. Bring in Dread, etc.
So we brought up multiple LPL teams. We brought up 3 LCK teams that we think could be there. Anything for the West? Are we looking at LEC? We look at Vitality. No. We looking at G2 kind of figuring it out. Mad Lions being the, anyone here, any hope for the West?
No, I like Vitality. I mean, I think Vitality has mechanically good players. Wait, who is your pick? Because I did a tier list with Thorin. Monty, who was your pick?
Vitality was number 1 for me.
Oh, me too. I was also
I saw yours.
On the Vitality hype train. I feel like just their mechanical ability is just so high, and that's really, really important. Also, I'm just like a Bo fanboy,
Yeah, when I thought, that's the real reason. I mean, don't lie. Did you know how good Photon was?
No, I never watched a game of him. I just knew that he came from T1 Challengers.
I didn't either, but
I knew he came from T1 Challengers, and they just have an insane track record. But to me, I believe in the other players, right? I thought that Neon and Kaiser would be better than this, but I mean, Bo is like, he's real, man. He's the real fucking deal.
My logic for this was that Photon didn't really have to be good. He just had to be okay and play weak side. Though. But he is good. That's the thing. Yeah. It's like I saw that first game that they played, and they they stole the win from Fnatic, and like a lot of it was his TPs and his decision making coming in on the flanks, and like it was very impressive for me to see a player come in at that level. So yeah, I was very pleasantly surprised by him, and then I had a lot more faith in Vitality overall. Now I did have Excel as number 2, and that was
that's the surprise, though, right? I think everyone had them rated as like, hey, this is a team that could be as high as maybe second and as low as like, fifth, fourth, fifth, somewhere around there.
Yeah, I think like, there was a really strong start, obviously, for G2 as well, where they just came out of the gate crushing and showing a lot of obviously interesting picks, like the Zach into the Silas that we also saw at Worlds. So it was fun to see that come back and have Caps play it, because we know that Caps was playing it a lot in solo queue at Worlds. And then we saw it pop up here and there. But this was, I think G2 still has a lot of potential overall. And obviously SK has been a really surprising team. But I had heard that SK was actually extremely good in scrims coming into the LEC. So I was a bit surprised by their lackluster week 1 performance, but now they're coming off of wins against both G2 and Vitality. So showing they're kind of legit.
Any love to put FlyQuest in anywhere?
Yeah, sure.
I mean, sure.
They're kind of like Vitality tier, where they have looks like really insane players. So good individual skill. No team really looks that clean macro wise outside of T1, but like T1, they just kept the same roster together, so they have an advantage, obviously, in that respect. But I mean, that being said, like if you want to go like a top 4 in the world right now, I don't know.
Go 5. I'm going 5. Top 5.
I mean, top 5 in the well, I don't want to do top 5. Let's just say top 3 in the world will be T1, Dplus. I'm just gonna call them Dom1 for the rest of their lives. By the way, I'm never calling them Dplus again. Just so you guys know, T1, Dom1, and JDG. Those are the 3 teams to look out for.
Yeah, I think the thing with FlyQuest is, even though they've been very convincing, they don't even have their full roster yet, so it's difficult to get a final read on them. But I was extremely excited at Vikla and Prince coming over, because if you guys watched LCK and saw KT and Live Sandbox playing, you would have known that these guys are really quite good players. And also, kind of feels bad that they're not in LCK anymore, especially Prince. But I mean, I guess it's a big win for NA. FlyQuest with this roster, especially considering Impact often performs well internationally, like this team might actually be able to get a win or 2.
All right. Well, we'll find out. Those are the top teams in the world, and a really long discussion about Hanwha Life.
And also Hanwha Life, who hopefully will join their number at some point in time.
All right. So that's Galaxy Brain Club. Next up, we've got High Key, Low Key, No Key, where we talk about, like where are we feeling about a certain topic. This week, it's about rookie players in 2023. High Key, Low Key, No Key. Let's get to it. All right, Monty, let's start with you on the high key end. Rookies, we'll go globally about what you're excited about.
He's going to pick Pays.
I'm going to pick Pays. He knows me too well.
Monty's really good at the callbacks.
just saying, like,
it's like I knew Dom. I did before he did BDLS. I knew Dom was going to put Vitality number 1 because of Bo. He knows I'm going to pick Pays as the rookie. But no, I think in all seriousness, he's been doing very well in lane. He's been doing extremely well in team fights, and he has been listening to the way that Gen G. I think he's integrated very well into the way they play the game with their lane assignments and macro, because that is the identity of Gen G that has remained from last season to this season, which is that they are super smart about how they apply pressure on the map. They are super smart about how they manipulate minion waves, how they don't lose any CS, how they don't lose farm, how they take over the enemy jungle. Now, have there been moments that Pays has had, Pays moments, where he will just overextend, randomly die, now, this hasn't resulted for the most part in them losing very important objectives. Like, he dies at not bad times, but some of his deaths are just so phenomenally stupid that they just like make me laugh a lot. And I think some of the deaths are his fault. Some of the deaths, such as in their game against T1 when Faker made that crazy tower dive in the mid lane on Lissandra, he would never have encountered that before as a player in the amateur scene. Like, that is a T1 special, and only T1's going to do that to you, and you just don't understand the threat you're under unless you've played against T1 before and have seen their playmaking abilities. So I don't fault him for all of those deaths. Some of them are certainly his fault, but I think that he will adapt very quickly, and his fundamentals are extremely solid. His champion pool looks really good. And for a player that had to step up into fill the shoes of one of the very best players if not the best player in that position in the world, it was going to be hard for him to live up to those expectations. And while he's not ruler, he's quite good. He's quite good.
All right. There you go. Pays over there for Gen G. Dom, go ahead and talk about your boy.
Oh, well, Bo's not technically a rookie to me, so I was gonna go somebody else, somebody who I talked about already on the show, but you should know me. That's my high key pick. I just feel like he's such a sick player. I love seeing top laners that just have that play style. I'm just biased. Like, I just think it requires more skill to be able to pilot champions like Jax, Fiora, Camille, like those types of champions. I just think are more like entertaining to watch. And yeah, I mean, just the thing about a rookie over at LPL or like LCK is you don't start out and like, okay, well, we just like ease our way into LEC or LCS, and then eventually, you know, maybe we go to MSI, get our ass kicked, and come back. No, you're just playing against Breathe, who is one of the best top laners at Worlds last year, in your first series, and you're just performing well. So for me, I'm pretty excited about seeing him. Also, he's just a fucking Giga Chad. Like, if you just see their entrance onto the stage from IG, they're just a Giga Chad team.
All right. For me, I think I go into Europe and pull out the guy replacing Yankos in Yike, who is hopped on in, and it's feast or famine, and I love that about
I mean,
it.
I
In
did
the
watch
wins, it's
Bo
good.
just
Losses
poop
are
on
bad.
him.
Yeah,
today.
he got high key sodomized by Bo. Like,
Wait, yes, but that's Bo. That's Bo, right? You guys,
Yeah.
and plus my purview of rookies is a lot smaller than your guys's, so that's why I was like, hey, look, he's come into a very difficult spot, replacing someone like a ruler of an organization, maybe slightly less. Yankos, you know, he's been there for such a long time, but he's not Caps, but still replacing a stalwart of an organization, and they've kept up 4-2. He's been instrumental in the wins, and he's been muted in the losses, but that is what you want out of a rookie, to have those type of experiences early on, to not be afraid of the moment to dictate the game. And so that's what I like about Yike here, filling it in, and I feel like he's going to have himself a pretty good split. Okay, next up, let's go Loki, someone that's like under the radar, or someone that might pop off here that maybe people haven't heard of in terms of rookies that you're excited about. Do you have one ready? Because I do, if you guys don't have
Yeah, I was going to pick Yike, who did like fall down a little bit, especially because I also think Yike, he has benefited a lot from early game set plays, like level ones. And, you know, he's been on rails a little bit in terms of the script. And I think the coaching staff has probably done that for him, which is just good coaching, right?
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that. But I do think his performance has been buoyed by the fact that I think G2 has been, and Dylan Falco have been very specific about what they want to do, and coming in with strong early game plans in order to limit error. And I actually think, like, I guess I'll switch just for funsies to Exakick, who had a very good laning performance today, and I think has been promising overall. He's been around for a long time in the amateur scene, but now he's finally getting to kind of show off at the professional level. And he's been, I think, a really welcome surprise on an SK gaming team that I don't think most people expected anything out of coming into this season.
All right, Dom.
Yeah, I would say I'm low-key excited for Yeon still. I know they ended up losing, but I thought in their losses, he actually looked pretty solid. He looked like the better of the two rookies on that TL team. And even though he's surrounded by a lot of big names, I think that he's been playing competitive now for long enough. Like, he spent 2 years actually grinding for this, and he's somebody who tries really hard to, you know, play well and practice hard, you know, just be a top-tier pro. He really has his mindset on that. I'm low-key excited for him. Obviously, I would be higher key. I would be a little bit more excited if they didn't start 0-2, but I'm still pretty excited for him.
Yeah, I think for me then, Yun was my first one. I had a second one ready. Give me Dplus. Dplus filling into this Cloud9 role and doing his job. And that's from a baseline. Just do your job. You got a lot of parts around you that are going to go ahead and be very vocal. You got Blabber that's going to lead the line there. You've got Fudge that likes to talk about the game a ton in game as well. Just do your job. That was something that, you know, we'll see how they stretch out his champion pool a little bit more so that they don't get stuck in the same place that Cloud9 did with Jensen, where it's like, okay, now we have to play around Jensen's pool. Dplus being younger, maybe more agile to play different types of things. Hopefully that'll change things up for Cloud9, but a good start for the new mid laner for Cloud9. And let's close it off with a no-key excitement. A rookie that's just like, I don't know, man. Probably not it. Tom, you got a little grin. Let's go there.
Yeah, I mean, I would say the person that I'm no-key excited for is the new AD carry for Fnatic. He just doesn't he looks so overly passive. Like, I don't know. Every time that there's a fight that starts, he's running away. Like, I feel like he could carry these games a lot higher.
He plays for his KDA. Like, won't clean up fights because he's afraid of dying.
Yep. I would say that I'm no-key excited for Fnatic's new AD carry.
Wow, harsh.
All right, Monty, what you got?
I'm gonna pick Hayri, who's the new mid laner for Team Liquid. I think I haven't really seen anything that I would consider a key strength of his. I'm not seeing crazy mechanical outplays. I'm seeing a lot of macro mistakes. He'll wander off into the wrong lane at times, and I think Team Liquid as a whole is really lacking in that macro aspect. Like, they have kind of no idea what they're doing on the map and no team identity and no real presence. But I think it's very, very difficult to play in the LCS with a domestic mid laner and see any level of success. So I don't know where you go with this guy. And I think he is just going to be a black hole of pressure and in the wrong place on the map throughout the rest of the season. And I'm pretty down on Team Liquid overall because I don't see this group of players coming together.
Yeah, I think that's a great point there, Monty, in terms of success. And a lot of people will point to like, hey, look, Jojo Pune has been able to do it, but that is the outlier, not the rule, right? And so,
well,
that's
also, I mean, even with Jojo, I would make an argument that he was a major contributor in throwing to CLG. Also because he didn't know where to be on the map.
Sophomore slump, hopefully for Jojo. I think for me, because of those factors, I look at a kid who got thrown in, and this is less about his fault and more about the organization, the role that he's playing, the situation that he's put in. Young, who I think held his own well against Jojo early on in that very first game. I was watching Challengers League earlier, and he had a good week with Golden Guardians Challenger, or whatever it's called, in the Challengers League. And then all of a sudden, they get called up to play this week. He said he didn't have a ton of notice beforehand. He said, hey, you might play a week beforehand. And then they told him, like, I think the day before.
I mean, they're not supposed to have him, right? They're supposed to have Corey.
So. Yeah, I know. But so I'm saying it's less about Young, because I think I like Young. I think his laning didn't look as great, but that's going to happen because he doesn't play against other pressuring mid laners. But his team fighting looked okay. His gank setup looked okay. But it's not exciting because he's a North American mid laner playing on Golden Guardians who isn't going to get many other opportunities. So I think it's more the situation and the role that he plays and less about the player itself. It's a little cheating, but I wanted to give him a shout out because I feel like he's put in a very tough situation and did okay. He did okay. All right. Well, that is high key, low key, no key for the rookies of 2023. If you're high key excited about one, let us know in the comments below. All right, to close out today, it's time to look into the crystal ball and that crazy crackhead mind of Dom there. Sorry, dude, I just threw that in there. Let's see what Dom has to do with our first episode of nostraDOMus.
All right, so this prediction, this nostraDOMus moment is not going to be what we normally do. Normally, I'll predict like the results of the game or a team that I think will do really well. But instead, we're gonna predict that Abbedagge is going to be replacing Vetheo for the next week, because I feel like this team needs to do something. I talked about it earlier, and it just seems like it makes the most sense. Like, if you have a sub, if you're going to sign a sub that's of that caliber, what better time to use them than when you're 1-5, your back is up against the wall, and then on top of that, your players are like completely mentally broken, tweeting out like depressing tweets, crying on stage after the second week. This is your time to actually use your sub if you were intending to use them at all. And it doesn't seem like he would be there to be a streamer or some other job within the organization. So I think that this is the most logical thing for XL to do, and I hope they do it going forward.
Any more additions there, Monty, in terms of it?
No, I agree. Like, look, you're 1-5. You need to win probably at least 2 of your 3 next games, if not 3 of your 3 next games, to make it through to the next phase of the LEC. Otherwise, you are going to spend the next few weeks just retooling your roster and being scrim fodder for other teams that are continuing to play on stage. So I think Dom's right. This is the time to do it.
Globally, is there someone else in a position like that when in terms of like having a sub of that caliber? The only things that come into mind, the Unforgiven behind Doublelift and Eminez behind Diplex. Those are the 2 that I'm like, but not that those guys are underperforming like the way that Vetheo has, but is there another one out there?
No, but Clid probably should be replaced, but there is no sub.
No, by literally anyone. Literally, it doesn't matter if there's a sub, man. Literally, fucking, I don't know who the owner of Dom1 is, but just have Coma play. Like, just fuck it. Like, isn't he like gold? That's probably higher than.
I mean, you say that. I think there are actually better options literally on this roster. Dandy and Mowgli are coaches on this team. Dandy and Mowgli are the 2 coaches on Hanwha Life, and you're not going to convince me that they shouldn't at least try one of them.
OGN/LCK/ how is it? North American Challenger League great Dandy as well. We'll see what they do in the future. Thank you very much for nostraDOMus for his prediction this week. To close out the day, we like to leave you with the best match of the week, the best one that we saw, and I think across the league sphere, it was pretty clear which one it was. It was Dplus, also known as Damwon to Dom, and T1 going head to head for the first time in the LCK season. Monty, it was a hell of a treat of a 3-game series.
It was really fucking good. The highlights of this, it was a very high level series. T1 was extremely punishing over minor, I would say pretty minor mistakes that we saw from Dplus, including, well, especially in game 3, where they basically turned a chunk off of Showmaker in the mid lane into the game after some mistakes were made in the bot lane, and Faker got a level 6 triple kill on Kassadin. It's pretty much lights out at that point in time, but it felt like both of these teams had opportunities to win this series. We saw insanely good plays from Canyon. We saw the crazy mind games that are going on right now, because previously Dplus had come in dominating in the bot lane with the Lucian and the Nami. And then we had seen T1 coming into this game with, of course, like support Ashe and support Caitlyn. They pulled out the support Callista with the Draven in game 3. So it was very interesting from a meta perspective. There was, after the Lucian and Nami we had a bunch of AD bans to prevent T1's shenanigans. Then they picked Lucian Nami. Then the answer from Dplus was a Guardian bone plating shield bash Yuumi alongside Zeri, which traded it was surprisingly good. So there was some dark tech to counter the dark tech. Like it was very intellectually stimulating if you're a League fan. Tons of weird shit, tons of really creative plays, tons of creative team compositions. This series was world class. It was great.
Yeah, LCS fans, definitely go watch it, but don't watch it too much. Don't watch it too hard. Like that's not really for us, for LCS fans. But if you do want to try to see what good League of Legends is like, we can go watch.
What did Dom think about it? Because I was very entertained.
Yeah, I liked it, and I mean it's a weird take because Dom1 lost, but I actually think it looked like almost better for Dom1 in a way, because considering that they like replace, I mean there's 3 remaining players, but they changed their AD carry and their top laner. That's a big fucking difference right there. They're able to play, I mean, a pretty competitive series against a team that has a lot of.
It could have been 2-0 Dplus. That was like an option 100%. On the table.
Yeah, so I mean, I thought it was good. Also, I mean, just when you're watching Dom1's games, I think Deft is actually playing better than he did even at Worlds. Like it seems like he's really in form. And like the biggest issue that I've had, or like the biggest criticism I had of him at Worlds was his laning just didn't seem that good compared to like, Ruler and Guma. It just looks like he would be automatically down just like 20-30 CS. And for the most part, it doesn't seem like he's having these laning issues. I mean, obviously they got duo killed by the Draven Callista. in lane. But to me, that's more of like, you picked an enchanter and now everyone's just realized that if you pick an enchanter to carry, he's going to play Caitlyn. He's going to play every single AD carry in the book, because essentially what people figured out, what Carrier figured out, I should say, is that it's not really just that like Ashe has like the scouting tool and the ulti that makes it such a broken pick. Those are bonuses, but the real thing that makes Ashe so broken into these enchanters is that she could walk up with Halo Blades and just trade their fucking face off in lane and just keep them under turret, sack the spell thieves, and have permabot pressure. And yeah, now if you're picking an enchanter into him, you're just trolling. Like, don't pick Nami, don't pick Lulu, don't pick Yuumi, don't let him counterpick you. If you're red side, you better save support for fucking R5. Like, don't let this guy counterpick you, because he is going to have something that will absolutely skew the game. And I think that it more shows that this is one of the strongest things you can do in League of Legends, to support counterpick on bot lane. Support counterpick on bot lane seems like the most punishing that you can get. Like, just with how all the champions counter each other. If you pick Engage, there's champions like Braum that come out, Tom Kench, Alistar. If you pick enchanters, you can pick all these ranged carries. If you pick, the Braum, Tom, whatever blind, you can pick enchanters into it, and they're really strong. It feels like there's always such a big stylistic counter you can go for in bot lane. And the thing is, you can pair a lot of these picks with like similar champions. Like, you could play a kill lane with a Varus, or you could play a poke lane with a Varus, like Varus Ashe, or you could even play an enchanter with a Varus if it's good enough, or you could pick a Braum with a Varus. It feels like all these champions are versatile enough to allow
or
you.
Leona with Varus, which has been popping up more recently.
Yeah, you can go into your bag and just like find a champion that's going to be able to pair and allow you to have that pressure in lane. So yeah, I mean, I think right now Carry is really just like teaching the rest of the world how fucking broken support counterpick is, if it's utilized correctly and you have a player that's mechanically proficient enough to play the whole roster of available champions.
Yeah, I also want to sing the praises of Kellen very quickly, because he has been really quite good, and it has been a bit one note. Like, obviously he's played mostly Nami, but it was him with the weird ass, Yuumi runes that showed what you can do into the Lucian Nami matchup with the Yuumi and the Zeri together. But he's quietly amassed over all their games so far. They've played 9 games. He has died only 9 times, and he has a 92.7% kill participation rate across 9 games. And it is easier on enchanters to get assists and get your kill participation up, but that is pretty insane that he has been just basically in the right place at the right time. Part of that has been Dplus has been very aggressively playing through the bot lane, which means that he gets the early kills and then he transitions into the team fights later on to continue getting that high KP. But he has been really, really good, and it seems like that partnership with Deft is already very effective.
All right. Well, there you have it. If you haven't gone and watched the whole series, head on back on over to YouTube and take a look at it, because it was very, very fun to watch. And of course, the casters did a great job of breaking it down as well. I think it was Chronicler and Atlas on the call. So great job, homies over there. All right, y'all, that does it, except for you, Monty, because Dom already knows this one. It is Dgon's Fact of the Week, sponsored by no one. LCS, because, whatever. TSM, CLG, Cloud9, historic orgs of the league, all 2-0. When was the last time that all 3 orgs were 2-0?
2016?
He's a piece of shit for this one.
The answer is never.
Right
it is
now?
historic.
Fuck you.
Yeah. Right. It's the first time ever that all 3
That's
orgs have never. Because a lot of the time, TSM plays Cloud9 or CLG to open the year, and then the dominant years of TL.
That's actually a really good point, because of the scheduling that would have normally happened. But because TSM has been so garbage, they wouldn't have actually put them in premier matchups at the start.
Jeez. All right. Well, yeah, that is true. In those premier matchups, it was against the other premier team. So very interesting. Everyone was like, what year are we in? It's like, nah, that's never happened before. This is cool.
It's a new year. It's a glorious new LCS era.
All right. Well, y'all, that does it for this week's episode of Power Spike. One more time, if you haven't subscribed to our Last Free Nation YouTube channel, make sure to do that. In the description below are all of our links where you can catch all of our content in all of its glorious forms. If you like short form, don't worry, we got the TikTok ready for you. Twitch is at insight on esports so that you don't miss any of your esports content here, not only just for League, but across multiple different titles. Closing thoughts, Monty and Dom?
Any games you're what games are you looking forward to this week, Dom, in LPL?
I haven't looked at the whole schedule yet. Actually, let me check it out. I think so. Today there wasn't good games. We have IG versus EDG. Looking forward to that. LNG versus RNG. Those are both on Wednesday, so Wednesday should be just a banger day in general. And then there's NIP, who actually lost today, so I mean it's not as hype. But NIP versus JDG, Ninjas in Pajamas, they looked good in their first match. They looked not so good yesterday or today, I guess earlier today. So I'd say those are actually the biggest ones to me right now. And then if you want like the match of the week, I'm pretty sure the match of the week is Weibo versus BLG. So that's like two teams that projected top 6. BLG, they always come with the super team these years. So they've got another super team. We'll see if it actually ends up, being good. Weibo actually looked really good in their first game, which is surprising because, the Shy's on the team. Besides for the game where he just completely ran it down, but he just does that. He just picked Nidalee top and just completely ran it down for no reason. I don't know why he does that, but he continues to do it. So besides for that game, they've looked really good.
Nidalee top, baby. And yes, NIP is in the LPL. They bought Victory 5.
Yeah.
E5.
No, they merged. Technically, they merged with Victory 5, and then they took the NIP name, but they basically like formed from the Swedish org and the Chinese org together is what happened. LCK, if you guys don't know, Gen G versus Dplus / Dom1, whatever you want to call them. That's coming up this week. There's also T1 versus Hanwha. Maybe that will be good. Who can know? Otherwise, those are probably the two best overall matches that we've got coming up this week. And then for those of you guys who want to watch the other leagues, it's surprising that I get to say this, but FlyQuest and C9 and FlyQuest or CLG versus C9 might be the two best games of this week. Shockingly.
Good week for C9.
And then LEC.
If you're a C9 fan.
And then LEC, because they actually have a good format now, turns out that a lot of the fucking games are interesting.
Yeah,
it's
they
weird.
all fucking matter.
It's weird when you have a good format, how suddenly games become more interesting. I wonder if we could learn anything from this.
Yeah,
it's slow learning. It's slow learning, Monty. Come on, we're making baby steps.
It's almost like, I really love the fact that LEC swapped into having 3 tournament formats a year. It's almost like that's what OGN did in Korea before Riot told them that they couldn't do that anymore. And it was really fun. And then now we have it back. I mean, who am I to say that we could have had this the entire time? I don't know. But there are going to be a lot of like really fun games because obviously with Excel and Fnatic and potentially even Koi, in that dumpster, they're going to be fighting for their bitter life to make top 8. And that will be fun, even though they're not the greatest. They haven't been the greatest teams. Like we expected all those teams to be much better.
All right, well, there you have it. Y'all, thank you so much for watching. A lot of league content to watch this week, and we'll cover it all next week on the next episode of Power Spike. Thank you.